I am Edward Fillion, and I am an immigrant. And I'm also a cyclist. I cycled to work this morning, got up super early, and you can imagine it's very cold out there at 7 o'clock in the morning and earlier. And there's this film of frost, icy frost. And so I come in on the Joe Rodota Trail there, and on one of the turns, I hit the ground, bit the dust. Well, if you're a cyclist, you're going to go down at some point. So I handled it for this year. Went down. But you know what? In that cold, as I rode through, the path is populated with homeless people. And I thought, my fall is nothing compared to having to sleep in that frosty cold. And it just opened my heart to our non-profit partners who work to alleviate the suffering of others, and to our project Sleep Warm that creates bedding and clothing for people so that they can be warmer in these very freezing cold times. And I cycle because I cycle for one of our non-profits, the AIDS Life Cycle, that rides from San Francisco to Los Angeles to raise funds for HIV and AIDS awareness, because as federal funds are withdrawn from very important programs, the hearts of the American people open wide and rise up to meet the challenge. That's what it's all about. This month we're talking about that. What do we stand for? We're talking about values-based spiritual living. And to assist us in that, we are going back to the basics of our teaching as represented in the first 4 chapters of the book, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, which is rather difficult to read. It's written in the 30s with language that isn't contemporary anymore. It's a challenge, especially for our younger people. And to assist with that, I wrote a paraphrased version of the first 4 chapters in plain English. And I asked Alan Yeager, our communications officer, late yesterday afternoon, if he would print up, a couple of hundred of them, so that you can, when you leave today, pick it up at the doors and take it home with you to assist you in understanding the key ideas in these 4 chapters that are forming the basis of our discussion. And for those people who are listening on the radio and to our video audience, to make it accessible to them also, it's available on Amazon.com under the title Science of Mind and Spirit for Beginners. And it's at 99 cents to make, I think that's the lowest price you can go on Amazon.com. So you can either pick it up there, or you can pick it up as you leave and have something to supplement these 4 key ideas that we're discussing this week. And they are these: the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and this week, and how to use it. And the it in these topics refers to the creative intelligence that governs the universe. Side story. I've mentioned to you that I grew up Catholic, and so there are lots of traditions from my Catholic upbringing that are still dear to me, like Lent. I loved it. Lent this year begins on March 1. And for me, it was the season of preparation, spiritual preparation for the Easter celebration, an event, 40 days of abstaining. And when I discovered the Center for Spiritual Living, I was worried that I would have to give up some of the wonderful experiences of my childhood faith tradition. But I learned instead to reframe them and keep them with me. So Lent for me then continues to be a season of abstaining from negative ideas, restrictive ideas. I think of it as the season of clearing out my heart and my mind and my feeling and my vision to make way for an unobstructed view of spiritual reality. And that's how you use it. That's exactly how you use it. Clear it out, fill it up, and watch. Oh, it's a good question for our times right now. What do you need to clear out or let go of in your consciousness so that you can have an unobstructed view of spiritual reality? That's a good question. Excellent question. You know, one of the things I see these days, people letting go of this idea that someone else will take care of things. Oh, there's something happening in our world. It's this emergence. A new civic awareness is rising up in which we are learning to participate in our world more effectively. And we're also learning with that how our spiritual awarenesses and the values we stand for can provide the foundation for more meaningful engagement in the world. You know what else I see? I see this idea being let go of more and more frequently. It's starting, this idea that I have to be combative to get my opinion across. Oh. So I'm asking myself, and I invite you to ask, what idea about yourself do you want to let go of so you can have an unobstructed view of the truth of yourself? What idea for your world, of your world, do you need to let go of? And as important, and what do you want to replace it with? Because that, the letting go and replacing that, is the heart of how to use it. Clear it out, the consciousness, fill it up, the consciousness, and let the divine energy of it flow through, and then let that prompt you into action, because don't you know, the action is as important as the inspiration. Dr. Jim Lockhart, who has spoken here before, and he's coming to speak again, I read his blog, and he wrote recently, if our only role is to be sitting in prayer for the ills of the world, then are we being truly progressive in any sense of the word? Or are we using a form of spiritual bypass to remain disengaged from a world that cries out for spiritual clarity in the form of visible action? Ugh. I'm working with some members of our center right now. We're working to create a way for us to let our inspiration flow into action in a nonpartisan way. What we're doing is we're preparing envelopes that are addressed to local and national civic leaders and to provide them. Now, we're not going to tell people what to say. We're not going to tell people what to think, but we're going to provide the nudge to let your spiritual values translate into action, because that's your business. We're simply providing the vehicle for your inspiration to flow. So next Sunday, we'll be ready for you. We'll hand them out. But you don't have to wait until next Sunday to speak up to your leaders if what's happening in your country doesn't match your spiritual values. You can start today. And if you want further inspiration, you can explore what other spiritually minded groups are doing by coming to this evening service at 7 p.m., where there is an interfaith service that launches the season for nonviolence at 7 p.m. And right there'll be all kinds of material for you to take home to integrate the principles of nonviolence, which we probably need very, very much for the weeks and months and years to come. And you can come on Wednesday evening. I'll be speaking about the spiritual value of diversity and inclusivity to continue to remind myself, and maybe you too, to come back to what it is that is important to us. The idea that from the one comes the many, and to celebrate that. Now, whatever you do, just try not to contract or to freeze up. Open up. I'm thinking of the Unity minister, Joe Rosemergy, and he said these lovely words. Action without prayer and meditation leads to exhaustion. Prayer and meditation without action leads to self-absorption. I'm thinking about that. And even before I get to the inspiration and the action, I've got to do that work of clearing out the obstructions. And so this Lent season will be doing that together, clearing out our minds and our hearts, clearing it out of whatever it is that is obstructing us from having the inspiration to know what to do. And I know this is easier said than done. So we have help. We are preparing a guide for you. We'll hand it out on the last Sunday of February, so it can be in time for the 1st of March, so you can begin. So don't miss that Sunday. Don't miss any Sunday. We need each other right now. We need community and the check-in, the inspiration. So we'll be handing out a guide, a 40-day guide, and it's called Giving It Up for Good, to guide you in abstaining from the kind of thinking that keeps us stuck, frightened, actionless. No, that won't do. Now, there is something very important to consider when discussing the topic, how to use it. It's a secret. Here it is. There's no off switch. You're using it all the time. All the time. Right now, what you are thinking and feeling and planning is creating something for your life and for mine. And whether I'm aware of that or not doesn't change the way it works. So that's what we do. We use it all the time through our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our vision. It's just that sometimes we don't use it in a good way. Sometimes a person can give more mental time and energy to their problems than they do to their blessings and their hopes and their gratitudes. Not you. And that's tricky to take that in these times, because we don't want to be irresponsible. We don't want to slip into denial. We don't want to put our heads in the sand. We want to remain fully aware that there are difficult, important, urgent things to address. Of course they are. It's just that when I discovered Science of Mind, I discovered personally that I could have a little more balance with where my thinking was. I could improve the balance between helpful and harmful thinking. Yeah, there was room to improve. There was room to improve the way I was using my mind. And do you know that shifting the balance to more beneficial thinking did not have the result of me contracting or removing myself from life or putting my head in the sand? It had the exact opposite. I became more open. I leaned more into life. I became more interested in how to be an agent for the expression of life's glory. And I'll confess to you that right now I'm slipping again. I'm slipping. The balance is slipping. And I see I'm giving time to fear. Time that ought to be given to awe and wonder and goodness and decency and common courtesy and kindness and grace and generosity and sharing. I've got to get my consciousness back onto the correct bus. Before I became a minister, I was a licensed prayer practitioner. These are our spiritual consultants. We have them here. We work on a fee-for-service basis, and people would come to me to consult about something typically that was worrying them, that was difficult in their life. And as I was listening to what was troubling them, one of the common questions I would ask as part of my consultancy is, have you been praying and meditating? And one of the common responses I would get is no. The reason for it being, I just don't seem to have the time, or I don't know how to do it, or my mind has just been too distracted with what is going on. Now, the thing is that when I don't have the time for the very practices that refuel my spiritual tanks, I'm less prepared for the tough issues in life. It's not a judgment. It's not a criticism. It's not a punishment. It's just how it is. And if I don't know how to pray or meditate in times of trouble, well, I'm not really going to learn how to refuel my mind with images of hope and inspire my emotions with ideas of connection if I focus 110% on Facebook or on strongly biased news stories. So we want to help you. We want to help each other. Expose ourselves to practices and language, prayer and meditation that we can access for free that refuels us. You can begin today. Out in the social hall, there's a door to the chapel where there is prayer, person-to-person prayer. There are meditation groups on Monday, on Saturday, on Sunday. There is online prayer submission forms on www.cslsr.org. There is a telephone ministry of prayer. It's all there. The phones should be ringing off the hook, right? I don't know how to get through this life without support in prayer. I don't know how that's done. It seems to be an essential component of sanity. And it doesn't take a lot of time. For a very small investment of time, it yields a huge return, tremendous benefit. I'll give you an example. Now imagine with me that it's first thing in the morning, and you've woken up, maybe you've had a cup of coffee, maybe you're sitting in your living room or in your bed. And you say these words or similar words to yourself in the silence of your own mind. So let's try that. Let your eyes close if you want to. And imagine that this voice is your voice. And it's saying, my mind is a center of conscious awareness in the thing itself. I am a point of conscious life and truth and action. My affairs are guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do or say or think is stimulated by truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and in my affairs. The living Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, all the time, and these ideas are inspired. They direct me, and they sustain me without effort. I am guided to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word in the right way, and to follow the right action. I am filled with life's energy. I live in the Spirit of truth, and I am aware that the Spirit of truth lives in me. Now, if you take a breath and return to the activity of the room, you can see that that practice only takes a minute. It is so powerful. And I will post it on our website. It's adapted from language from Ernest Holmes. And when a person starts every day like that and ends every day like that, it changes things. Compared to those days when I start my morning by reaching for my iPhone to check my newsreel to see what batch of fresh terror has been whipped up in the headlines, that I must now click on, like, and share, and comment on, and eventually fact check. No, it doesn't matter whether I choose that way or that way. Creative intelligence doesn't judge. It leaves it up to you and me to exercise our choice. How will I be an instrument today? Which is why I love St. Francis of Assisi's prayer for peace. I love it because out of the infinite possibilities in divine mind, the saint chose peace. And in prayer, affirmed it. And then he got up and fed the poor and the animals and inspired generations of people to do the same. Do you know that the friars of St. Francis have been feeding the poor of New York since the 1930s? We are not paralyzed. We can do the same. Bring non-perishable foods. Bring your heart. Bring your aspiration. Rise up. Oh. I realize that no matter what I choose and what I do, none of it is going to change the fact that we've got work to do. That we have our duties to fulfill, and we have issues to address. But it is going to change me and you. And it's going to change the way we go about it. And in that is my hope and my trust. This is how I see it. There is a creative power that expresses through me and you. It fills up my mind with infinite possibilities. And I make use of that by choosing what to dwell on. And when I do choose, that creative power flows through me and my choice, and I become an instrument of its expression in this world. I invite you to breathe in with me and to exhale into a moment of prayer. I recognize that creative intelligence that is the source of everything. I recognize it as being everywhere, and I recognize it for what it is. Immortal, everywhere present, eternal, above me and below me. And I recognize it so that I can feel my unity with it. I understand myself as being alive in the middle of creation's divinity, so that I may remember and realize the unobstructed truth of being, oneness. And in this oneness, I let fall away from me all images, all enemy images of others and separation and danger and fear. And my realization does not relieve me from my duty to do what is mine to do. If my house needs tidying, I tidy it. If I need to move forward, I move. But I do it all from this remembered sense of oneness and standing true in my values, remembering what I stand for, remembering what is important and true for me. I feel relieved, inspired. I cut the cord to hypnotism that comes from the group mind. And I let myself be filled up with the vision that I have always had of connection and harmony, sharing and mutual affection, and so much more. I stay loyal to these ideas, and I celebrate that once I have chosen, according to spiritual law, the energy of creation flows through me, and I am fully expecting right now to know what to do and how to do it, what to say and how to say it, where to go and when. For I am coming back to my senses. One life, one truth, God's life, my life, now and forevermore. And together we say, and so it is.